they lean conservative. It's there for the taking. We just got to show up.
Well, the left is lying about us not liking them, you know, and so we've got to find a way to get that message out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, talking about blacks, talking about Hispanics. I meet a lot of black conservative people,
Sure.
but they're afraid to step out of their thing and say anything conservative because they're so locked into their community. My question is, how do they compare with the Hispanics? Because I've met some Hispanic conservatives, one of them, they come to grassroots, but they were acting sort of like blacks.
Statistically, the blacks vote 92% Democrat, Hispanics vote 71% Democrat.
Okay, but how do they feel about stepping out of their element?
The black community is a harder community to reach because there is a groupthink mentality of if you're black and you're a conservative, then you sold out. Yeah. And that is something that I don't know how effective I can be at convincing that black guy who's a conservative to step out into his community. But Katrina Pearson, who is a fantastic activist, and she is a rock star, she's running for Congress against Pt6, is a black conservative activist. Refer people to her YouTube videos and her blog and her story about how she's been emboldened to step out. Lawrence Jones, a very, very good friend of mine, who was actually the guy behind the camera for the recent undercover videos, he used to work for Obama for America. He's 21 years old. He is a 6'4" black kid who, if you look at him, you think, I'm not even talking to that guy because he's definitely a Democrat. He is a fierce conservative. He's a leader. Lawrence Jones is his name. Deneen. I mean, there are Alan West. There are black conservatives out there who, if you need to embolden somebody, don't tell your story because your story doesn't apply to them. Tell their story. Tell Katrina's story. Tell Lawrence's story. Tell Deneen's story. That's how I think we reach that community and embolden them because it's not a. There really is. I was talking to Lawrence last night. It really is terrifying to leave kind of your camp and what the perception of who you should be as an individual. It's something that we just have to accept. We don't necessarily understand that mentality. Refer them to people who do.
We have people like James White who beat a long-entrenched old Democrat in Jasper, Texas.
Sure.
And then in redistricting was put up against a long-entrenched Republican who White beat him too in Jasper, Texas. A black man winning anything in Jasper, Texas 20 years ago would have been unthinkable.
It's doable, and it's happening, and you're exactly right. I think we need to look at the demographics are a huge issue, and we have to play the demographics game smart. And I am not going to be able to go into urban Dallas and register a bunch of 19-year-old black kids to vote Republican. My secret weapon is I know the people who can go in there and do that. So if there's an obstacle and a hurdle that you don't think you can jump over and it's not realistic, the biggest thing you can do instead of trying to be a rock star and jump that hurdle is find somebody who can. And that's what we can help you with. If you need help finding that activist, we can help you with that. We want to be FreedomWorks is set up as a resource center for activists. We want to be able to help you with whatever we can. Now, for this campaign, like I said, we're leaning heavy on you, and I will bend over backwards to do as much as I can. But I need you guys to be bold, and I need you guys to we're going to have to, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. And we're going to have to say, you know what, I don't want my kids or my great-great-grandkids to live in a blue Texas. I don't want my kids, I don't even have kids yet, and I'm already worried, holy crap, they're already $43,000 in debt federally. I don't want that to happen in Texas. Find your passion, find what makes you bold, and we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. I'm out of my comfort zone right now. I've never given this presentation. I'm usually the behind-the-scenes guy. You're doing well. So we've got we've got to step out of our comfort box. We've got to get outside the echo chamber and start reaching people. Yes, sir.
How do you identify an activist?
You're here right now.
No. How, you said you could help us find activists.
So anybody who's registered on Freedom Connector, who likes us on Facebook, who interacts with us regularly, we've got 2.3 million people who have signed up for the mailing list, email list. I would probably say there's probably a third of the super activist. FreedomWorks we have what we call super activists in every state, people who we know are engaged, who have their own individual communities, people who regularly go to Tea Party meetings, Tea Party leaders. We have that data, that knowledge, that mailing list, and if we know of an activist in your community, somebody who's engaged in FreedomWorks that maybe you don't know, we can make that connection happen. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So guys like Lawrence are exactly what we need. Is the most effective way to reach any communities from the inside.
I agree.
But I'm a precinct chairman in Grayson County,
Okay.
and there is really nothing coming down from the state level through the county chairs and the precinct chairs, any kind of marching orders or direction or game plan from the Republican Party of Texas for how to address this issue.
There's not going to be one.
So I talked to my county chairman multiple times. I talked to Steve Ministeri, and it's there's some kind of high level acknowledgement that there's an activity taking place, but it's really not coming down. So in Grayson County, I forced the issue there and put together a committee that has representation from the Republican Party in Grayson County, from our Texoma Patriots organization, from Republican women, and from North Texas Young Conservatives. And we're going to do a block walk next Saturday. So, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but we're going to go do something.
That's awesome. Everybody take notes.
But one of the things that I really want to encourage you to do is to reach into the county GOP structures. Contact the precinct chairman. Yes, because if they're going to get involved, it really is going to probably have to be forced from the outside. Nothing's coming down from the top. They need some encouragement. They need to know that there's support out there to help them get organized and to help them connect with other grassroots organizations in their counties.
I think that's a great idea. And one thing that we were talking about at the Dallas County Young Republicans meeting 2 weeks ago was this issue with the vacant precinct chairs. There is tons of them, and I didn't know this, but run for it, become the precinct chair, and if your precinct chair hadn't shown up to anything in 20 years and is just, run against it. Even if you lose, force them back into the community and to become active again. And I don't know how much.
Is there a way that you can send a link or post the vacancies at because I know different people who are activists in different parts of Texas.
Yes.
If I knew of the precinct shouldn't you know that?
Well, yeah, the county chairs.
Would know that.
I've got three chairs. I got three chairs in Gray County that are empty right now.
Well, what I was thinking is like in the whole state, if I know somebody in another area that's an activist that could use that information.
Yeah, that information is publicly available. I think it's through the Secretary of State's website. I will work on finding that later. I've seen it. I know it's out there. But yes, that information is out there, and we can try to get it out. Sir?
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
Something I learned in Waco, I met a man by the name of Bill Calhoun, and he was discussing communicating with going into the black districts. And he stated, because I asked him if he'd come to Longview, and he said he would. So he'll send people out here. But the name of his group is Texas Federation for Republican Outreach. That's Texas Federation for Republican Outreach. From the way he explained it to the group that I was involved in, is that if you give him a name of a black individual that's a conservative, they will contact that person and help that person build a group in their community, where they don't feel uncomfortable when you have someone walk up to the door and you don't know them, like we were talking about earlier. And all I know is he told me that he would do that, and it's available. And so if we don't have it already set up, that's somebody we could think of. Was just discussing that, but there was somebody from Dallas there that was Hispanic, so I'm not real sure. You'd probably have to talk to his group. But I just know that that was one of the chief issues. When we were talking about they all vote for a percentage,
Right.
how do you talk to them? If they're not in the group mentality, if they have someone that's a conservative, then that person can reach out. And that Bill Calhoun's group will help them organize.
Give it again, please.
Texas Federation of Republican Outreach.
So is the purpose of the block walk to try to find more conservative voters and encourage them to get out and vote? You're not necessarily trying to go to everybody in the block, you're trying to find
Right.
voters for your side.
It is most effective to use the voter data and list that we're gonna get out to you for your precincts. If I don't have your precinct information, or if Stacy doesn't have your precinct information, make sure that she gets it so that we know, okay, who to send the voter list to and for what precinct. So we need to make sure that we have that before we leave today.
I would like to see more conservatives, writing letters to the editor of the paper and things like that,
Sure.
combating
I think that's a
the
great idea.
false ideology that's out there on the liberal socialist agenda side.
I think
I need to do that myself.
Yeah, I think that's an effective outreach tool.
And